Hey guys, you're going to follow through to learn about the product to a power rule. What is a product? A product is, and you all already know this is a review, the answer to a multiplication problem. So when we talk about products, if you have 2 times 3, the product of that is 6. So follow along with me on your sheet. This is the exponent properties. They also call it the distributive rule, but it is also the product to powers rule. So you can look at it 2 different ways, and that's okay. If you will look, first off, here's your first problem right here. 2 times 3 to all raised to the 3rd power. So you have parentheses around it. 2 times 3, that answer raised to the 3rd power. So what they want you to do is to notice is all of this is repeated multiplication all over again. So the 3 on this exponent says this is how many times you're going to repeat the multiplication. So everything in parentheses is going to be repeated that many times. So they have listed 2 times 3, and then again they have the multiplication. 2 times 3, that's the second time, times, and then 2 times 3. Then they want you to rearrange the multiplication so that things are similar, because multiplication is commutative. You can change the order of it. So notice that they have 2 listed out here 3 times, and look how many 2s they have. And then they have 3 listed out here 3 times, and then they have 3 3s. And then they want you to write it as a power. Well, 2 to the, how many 2s are there? There's 3, so 2 to the 3rd, and then 3 to the 3rd. You could also, if you needed to, you could figure out what that is. 2 times 2 times 2, and then 3 times 3 times 3, answer it and come up with a number answer. But if you want to be, as an ask, as a power, this is how it needs to be written. All right, let's take a look at the next one. I'll walk you through that. The next one says 4 times 6, all raised to the 4th power. So that means I need to list it out there 4 different times. So I have listed 4 times 6 out here 4 different times. And the next, so if you will list that out there, then in the next column it asks me to rearrange that. So I have 4 4s. So that was the first term I came to inside the parentheses. So 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. And then I have 6 4s. I'm sorry, 4 6s. So I'm going to list that out after that, times 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. So if I want to write this as a power in a power form, I would have, well, there's 4 4s, so 4 to the 4th. And then I have 6 4 times, so 6 to the 4th. So that would be my answer as a power form. The next one, again, look at the how many outside the parentheses there. That 5 says list that out 5 different times. So I will start that. So I've got my x to the 5th, or I'm sorry, x times y raised to the 5th out here 5 times. Expanded it out into repeated multiplication. I have 5 of those out. If you'll do that on your paper. And then we want to reorganize that to where in the next column, list out all of the first terms, which is the x's, and then list out all of the second terms, which is the y. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 y's. So then I want to write this as an exponent in the last column. I have 5 of those. So it's going to be x to the 5th. And then I have, again, 5 of these. So it would be y to the 5th. And that would be it. let's take a look at the next one. We have an exponent of 2, so we'll list out this quantity within the parentheses 2 times to be multiplied together. So 3 times 4 times 5, then multiply it by 3 times 4 times 5. And when I organize that, I've got 3 times 3, then multiply by 4 times 4, because that comes from this terms right here, and then multiply by 5 times 5. So then to write it as an exponent, in the power form, I would have 3 to the second, or 3 squared, times 4 to the second, or 4 squared, times 5 to the second, which is 5 squared. Okay, look at the last one. It's got 3 times x in the parentheses, the quantity, all raised to the 6th power. So we're going to list that out there 6 different times. So parentheses 3x times parentheses 3x times 3x times 3x times 3x, and one more 3 times 3x. So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of parentheses. So now we're going to rearrange this, okay? There are 3 in each parentheses, so there's 6 different ones. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then I have x's. I have 6 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And write that as a power. I would have 3 to the 6th, and then I would have x to the 6th. So see if you can see what happens with the general rule. The general rule, we want you to be able to come up with on your own. We want you to be able to see, okay, I have 3x raised, all in the parentheses, raised to the 6th power, is the same thing as 3 to the 6th, x to the 6th. And we want you to be able to do that without having to go through expanding it. But if you need to continue expanding, go for it. It may not be as simple to see what's happening with the general rule with this. But let's do one more. This is number 39 on the same sheet. This one might be a little bit easier to tell what's going on. So I'm looking at the exponent on the parentheses here, and there's a 4. So it says everything in parentheses I need to list out 4 different times. So I have 3x squared times y times 3x squared. And I can put parentheses back if you are used to that. Times y, 3x squared times y, and 3x squared times y. And then I need to order them. I've got a 3 here. I'm going to multiply all those 3 together. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then I'm going to multiply all of my x squares together. Okay, and I have 4 of them. So times x squared times x squared times x squared times x squared. And then I'm going to multiply all my y's together. So times y, that's supposed to be multiplication, times y times y times y. And then I can simplify that, okay? So I have now 3 all raised to the 4th, so 3 to the 4th. Then I have x squared. Oh, how many? We've seen this before. This is where it gets different. So we've seen this before. I could expand that out further. That's the same thing as x times x, and that's x times x, and that's x times x, and that's x times x. So there are 2, 4, 6, 8. There are 8 x's there. So it's going to be x raised to the 8th. And then I have y to the 4th. So the simplified version of this would be 3 to the 4th, x to the 8th, and y to the 4th. So coming up with our general rule, we have to figure out what can we do to go from this to this, and maybe eventually get to skipping this step. So if you can't see what's happening right now, I'm not going to point out and tell you exactly what's happening. That's going to be for a later discussion. But I want you to go ahead. I want you to try number 40 on the next problem. Pause the video, try number 40, and see what you come up with. So you paused the video and you tried number 40. Okay, so this is what you should have done. If you found the rule out, then you would have had something like this. 2 to the 5th, a to the 10th, b to the 15th. And I'll show you how we got there. We would have 2a squared, b the third. 2a squared, b to 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 the third. And then you would have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That took care of all 5 of those. Then I would have times a squared times a squared times a squared times a squared times a squared. And then we would have took care of the b to the third power times b cubed times b cubed times b cubed times b cubed times b cubed. And you would notice that there are, to put this in as an exponent, I would have that repeating 2, so it's 2 to the 5th. And then I have, all these a squares. Okay, and this is the product rule. And we remember the product rule that we just add those exponents together. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 10. So that makes that a to the 10th. And then again, it's still the product rule, all these b's. So all these 3's will be added together. So there's 3, and 3 is 6, 3 more is 9, 3 more is 12, 3 more is 15. So that's how I got b to the 15th. Okay, so see how you did. Go on and do number 41. Pause the video. Okay, so now that you've paused the video and you've tried 41, let's check and see how you did. So if you know how to do it, the rule, more simply without writing it out, you would have came up with -4 raised to the third power times n to the third power times n to the 9th power. And how you would have came up with that is everything in parentheses listed out 3 different times, just like so. And then you would have rearranged. I have a -4 all raised to the third power. And I include that negative sign because it's inside the parentheses. And then I've got m's. There's 3 of them, n to the third. And then lastly, I have n to the third 3 times. I have n to the third times n to the third times n to the third. And guys, that's that product rule again. You add those up. So n to the 9th. So that is how I got to that answer. The next two, 42, 43, 44, try on your own. And then when you're finished, we will check. I hope you learned something. I hope you came up with a rule on your own and can see the rule, because you could very easily, very quickly go from this stage to this stage without having to expand it out.